When a timid young woman meets the brooding and mysterious widower Maxim de Winter, she's swept up in a marriage for which she is ill-prepared. Moving into his grand old home, Manderley, she discovers that the memory of Maxim's former wife lingers as a ghostly presence. Knowing she can never compete with Rebecca's perfection, the new wife's paranoia threatens to undermine her marriage, until she eventually learns the truth about her predecessor.
Kate, this is your favourite. Tell us why.
Yes, this is my pick because it's the sort of book, I mean, talk about books that distance you. This one gets under my skin when I read it. It's the sense of place is incredible. I mean, Manderley is real and vivid. And I'm fascinated by books where, like this one, where the character is fate, in a sense. And certainly the unnamed narrator at the centre of this book is so... And I noticed it even more reading it this time. Her daydreams, you know, she's always looking ahead to the future and imagining things. And she sort of scripts her own nightmare, in a sense, with these imaginings and the way she reacts to them.
It's a very Gothic thing to do, isn't it? These
it is Gothic.
Predicting and...
Absolutely, yeah. It was interesting. I noticed throughout the book there were lots of mentions of the past and the future, because and a few moments where the narrator comments that she felt very much in the present, but they're few and far between. You know, Max is sort of led by this event, you know, being haunted by his ghosts from the past, and the narrator is always anticipating and scripting the future for herself. And so the moments when they meet in the present are very few.
She dreams herself back, then she's in front of the narrative, and then she's back where she starts. I find it sort of quite not confusing, but I find it quite perplexing at the beginning. Exactly where this woman is going with the story.
But that adds to the unease, doesn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Dread
the unease and the atmosphere is the most convincing thing about the book, I think.
What do you think, Tom?
I was amazed, not amazed, but was cast back to another time when really accessible writers like her, Somerset Maugham and so on, could really write, unlike many mass market writers now. However, I did disagree with Sally Bowman, who is a Daphne Du Maurier expert, that it is something more than women's literature. When I use the word women's literature, I'm using a term that publishers love. It's one of the genres that's still selling. It's not surprising it's never been out of print. It's very well told, but I found the breathiness of passages like this. "It's too late, my darling, too late," he said. "We've lost our little chance of happiness." "No, Maxim, no," I said. "Yes," he said, "it's all over now. The thing has happened." "What thing?" I said. "The thing I've always foreseen, the thing I've dreamt about." Maybe I shouldn't have sent it up by overacting that.
I don't know, Tom. I thought you gave it a really fair go.
There is a strange breathiness to it that I didn't like, but once the ship is sunk, the ship that sinks off Manderley, you're absolutely riveted. It's a great story.
Defend it. Is it just women's?
Well, I also take issue with Sally Bowman's article at the back, because she is very keen to point out that even though it's been cast as a Gothic romance, it's not. But it is. To me, it is a Gothic romance, and part of the Gothic is the writer can use more overblown language, the emotions are heightened. So I'm happy with that for the genre that it fits.
I can see the Gothic bit, but I didn't buy the romance between the narrator, the young Mrs De Winter, and Max.
Well, you'd really hope not. What a horrible relationship.
Well, it's a horrible relationship, and I couldn't see any love there whatsoever. I couldn't understand why she was attracted to him. I couldn't understand any element of their relationship. That it's a completely sexless relationship. There's one, and there's bits where he is patting her head, and it's like a dog, and they hold each other like a child.
And she says it's like a dog in a nice way.
And she's perfectly happy with that. And there's one bit where his sister asks her if she's pregnant. And I was reading this and I was thinking, of course she's not pregnant, because there's no sex in this whatsoever. The only bit of... I mean, it's really bizarre.
What did you think as a romance?
I think the book is perfect, actually. I think it's perfect, and I think that... Don't scoff. Don't you scoff. I think it's perfect, and I also think it's perfect. It's just a big, juicy, overripe plum, and that's what the breathiness is for me, is it's bursting out of its flesh and dribbling down your chin as you read, and what a great, sticky, glorious mess to end up in when you finished it. I didn't find it sexless at all, and I also think it's a very... The dynamic between her and her husband, or even her and her partner, is very modern. Women get very daunted by the ghost of the ex-partner. I didn't think it was sexless at all. I think they were definitely doing it on their honeymoon.
There was no evidence of that. No, she does...
What do you want, a bloodied sheet? Of course there doesn't need to be evidence. I don't think you need to read about sex in a book to know that people...
No, but there's no passion in there.
There's no about a woman's book. We understand.
She wrote it, interestingly, partly when she was pregnant, I believe.
Yes, she did.
And partly while she was a garrison officer's wife. She wrote it to... There is an escape in it, or escapism for her in this book. I just took it for granted they were doing it, but she didn't say so because she's such a well-bred English girl.
I can't believe it. But we haven't ended up whether they were or were not consummating their marriage.
No, but this springs out of me being convinced. I'm not convinced by their relationship, that's all. There was no sense of love.
Who need something, but that's when they come together first. She needs to escape from her situation with the wonderful Mrs Van Hoppen, who's always cramming cigarettes into cream.
She's worthy of Dickens.
Oh, she's
she was fabulous.
She needs to escape from that. He needs the comfort and to escape from his memories of the past. Why do some people get married? Why do some people get married for money or power or to escape a situation?
She talks about a great love in there, but there's no sign of it. But I do agree with you.
But people talk themselves into it.
Some of the smaller... She is certainly a fantasist.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Tom says the language is a little overwrought at times. What do you say, Kate?
I know what Tom is saying, but I think it is part of this sort of gothic genre. You are allowed to be a little more over the top. And I think there's this sort of lyricism to the dream at the beginning in particular. Can I just read a little bit? For instance, she writes, there was in the dream, the narrator in exile, and she says, there was Mandalay, our Mandalay, secretive and silent as it had always been, the grey stone shining in the moonlight of my dream, the mullioned windows reflecting the green lawns and the terrace. Time could not wreck the perfect symmetry of those walls, nor the site itself, a jewel in the hollow of a hand. The language invites you to see this film in your head as you come up this overgrown driveway, and there it is, Mandalay, the great character from the book.
But I think you were saying it's a bit old-fashioned.
Well, no, it is. I mean, it's obviously I quite like the sort of the dialogue between the characters.
Not enough sex,
No, I'm not always going on about sex, but in this case I will. No, but I did love the exchanges of, they're always having tea. There's always this social ritual, tea all the time, and the meals and the dialogue at the meals between Beatrice, Max's sister, and her husband. I mean, it's incredibly located in the 30s and everything. And there was this... I did chuckle at this bit, I have to say, when they're talking about Max and the new Mrs De Winter going over to stay with his sister, and she says, we're 50 miles away, my dear, in the next county, the other side of Trochester. The hunting is so much better with us. You must come over and stay when Maxim can spare you. Giles will mount you. And I did wonder...
Jason, just grow up.
You have to have your eyes open for every
schoolboy tittering over at the back of that's shocking.
You need that stuff to get through this.
Plums are fried. You're double entendre over that side.
Oh, well, it's Carry On Rebecca, isn't it?
I do love books where their house is so big that the husband shakes out the Times in the morning and says, my God, darling, the West Wing burned down. Mandalay is that sort of house. Like the house, it's got hidden, locked
The house is the character.
One of the interesting things I thought, Kate, was that Du Maurier herself never talked about a love story. She said it was a book about jealousy and power, the power of a man versus the power of someone who had the position of someone who had no power. Do you see it like that?
I get that, yeah, certainly. I mean, Maxim does, obviously he's twice her age. She lost her parents. It's easy to read it as, you know, she's marrying a father figure and going away. And I find it quite incredible the moment when Max confesses his deep, dark secret. And she doesn't seem concerned by what he's saying at all, because for her, all she's hearing is he didn't love Rebecca. He didn't love Rebecca. And if the 500 mentions of how young she is in the first few chapters didn't show you, that moment certainly reveals where she's at.
Your quotation that it was about power and jealousy very much matches where the author was when she wrote the book. She was in a situation of powerlessness. I don't know if she was in a situation of jealousy.
They do say that she was very jealous of her husband's previous fiancé or something.
Yes,
apparently.
that's right. Yes.
She's a very jealous... And she starts being jealous of Rebecca at about, the beginning of the second chapter.
She's young.
So even before she goes to Manderley, even before she needs to be jealous, she's jealous.
When she tears that page out and destroys it so early on. Oof.
Yeah, that's
presages
right.
the rest.
See, women's novels not so bad, are they, Tom?
No, bringing me round. And the publishers are already there.
That's right.
And if I could write a women's novel, I'd do it. If I could write Rebecca, I'd do it.